That's not true. It isn't going to tell you both sides of anything. Social media, you know, we always hear about like the polarization. There's like these camps on social media. It's like you're not going to hear the other. The only time you will hear the other side is when it's so inflammatory that your side points at it to say, Hello and welcome back to the Laytonicles channel. It is I, the Layton in question, and today I thought it might be a bit fun to do I thought we could do something a bit low-key. Since the dawn of man and woman, two questions have emerged. Social media bad? Social media good? So I thought today we could go through that together so we can come out the other end with a definitive answer. Thanks to Jubilee. Low-key, you know these channels like Cut and Jubilee, they present themselves as this ooh-woo, soft, cute, or like introspective content. More often than not, it's the most flagrant excuse to get something on camera I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
I do yoga.
You're white.
I don't know, no. Black people do yoga too, come on.
Middle ground by Jubilee, pro-social media, anti-social media. What will the verdict be?
More recently, I did have a hate account on Instagram. They told me to and told me that I was ugly and that I looked like a clown. But then I realized they're only making fun of me because I'm giving them attention about it.
I'm pro social media because I like to send memes to my grandma. I like to keep connected with my friends, but most importantly, I think it's a useful platform and tool.
I didn't know what a trans guy was before I was on TikTok. I just thought I was a masculine girl.
I have social media, but I don't use them. I kind of just have enough posts that doesn't make me seem like a loser.
I find it really toxic because everything's based off numbers. I just want to see how pro-social media has helped their life because it hasn't really helped me as a person.
So do you think Instagram is the most detrimental social media?
No, I think TikTok is. Because it's manipulating their users and taking so much information from them, and they're showing that through the For You page, and people don't care.
That's an interesting one. And I will say, though, I think I'm supposedly on the cusp of Gen Z. I think I'm borderline. I'm biracial. I'm bi-generational. Is this even on? I don't have a TikTok, and I feel like I mean, it's partially, maybe I just missed the kind of watershed, but I feel like it might have done my brain a service to not. Because I feel like whenever people talk about it, they're kind of love and hate at the same time, because it's they love it because the content is so good and catered towards them, but then also they spend at least 2 to 3 hours a day of their life on it, just scrolling. So I know that there's the data thing, obviously, how they just suck up so much of your data, but then also your brain data, your RAM, you know what I mean? I swear when I was in university, one of the actual things that I learned there was this term called info glut, which was this kind of concept of unrestrained, uncategorized collections of information, the endless scrolling and what it does to your brain, essentially. I'm scared for my siblings, I'll put it that way. I at least had a portion of my life where I didn't have the internet. People would sit at the computer to use Facebook, for example. Whenever I even see, I don't know, a toddler in a pushchair with an iPad, I'm like, I get that parenting is hard, but, you know, having a stupid kid is harder.
Prior to a movement I started called Log Off, I spent about 5 hours on social media a day, and it was to talk with my sister who was in college, but I also got really bad repercussions about my body, and I felt really terrible after scrolling. But after I rethought about how I wanted to spend my time on there, it became much more productive. So I still spend time on Instagram. It's just to get a meme from my college sister, or to talk with friends that really bring me up.
I have an Instagram.
I think I will say I'm pretty happy to have picked male at the character select screen of life, because it does seem like being a woman on social media is certainly has its difficulties. I get that men do too, or can rather, in terms of self-perception and things like that. I don't know if this is the video for it necessarily, but there is a conversation to be had of like beauty standards. I don't know, and I'm not necessarily sure what direction I would go in it either, because it's like I understand that beauty standards, if you would call it that, obviously exist, but then it's like, well, who's reinforcing it? Because now that notions of beauty have been democratized, so to speak, with the advent and proliferation of social media, whereas back in the day, maybe like the decades before, there were this look is in style, this look is in style, look is in style, and that would be top down from the marketers of the time. Now that it's democratized, there is still this or various standards of beauty, so to speak, but it's arguably being done bottom up now, collectively, that is. So it does seem to me that there will always be some kind of, because what is a standard of beauty, really? It's just kind of like the layperson's abstracted idea of what the average is. Above average, good. Below average, bad. And obviously there are studies to like about people that are more attractive have it easier in life. Surprise, bitch.
I have an Instagram, I have a TikTok, but like I never open the app, like ever. I'm clearly not the skinniest, and like I have alopecia, so I'm losing my hair, and like I'll look on social media and like I'll see some like K-pop star and they're like a 00 with the longest hair on the planet, and they're like their skin is silk smooth. And when I take pictures, no matter what I do, you can see the whites of my scalp. So I don't take photos, and because I don't take photos, I don't have anything to post, and because I don't have anything to post, I don't see a point in opening the app. Plus, I'd rather spend my time reading.
I used to be more meek and mild. I was just like, oh no, they're gonna comment I'm ugly, and they're gonna hate on me. But then when TikTok started blowing up, one of my videos blew up, and I was just like, hey, they don't hate me. And I was just like, oh, okay, the confidence, it's coming in.
That's quite an interesting comment. I do feel like, I don't know how much it's apt for TikTok or general audiences, but my experience of the internet actually has been very pleasant, and even in doing, I guess, controversial topics, discussing controversial topics. So I think it's like if you attract a particular, I'm not going down a road of victim blaming, by the way, but it does seem like if you through happenstance attract like a disparaging, non-pleasant audience, sometimes they'll stick around just to be unpleasant to you. But generally speaking, because of the way how algorithms are set up, it's like attracts like.
I've had hurtful things posted about me, and the thing about the internet, it's there forever, and it's not like a word that was just said to me on the playground. It's something that's out there and other people can see.
Dude, social media is low-key. It is. Social media is probably, okay, there's two things about the prospect of having kids in the future. Social media, I'm terrified of how that will influence my kids, because there's the thing of like, whenever something that's kind of like flagrant or controversial happens, there's always the person that's like, oh, think of the children, how is this going to affect the children, that kind of thing. And then maybe one of the responses to that is like, oh, well, raise your own children, etc. And it's like, but to an extent, you can't. There is an argument to be had of like, well, are your kids even your own at this point? Not to say that you have to be super authoritarian and mind every single thing that they are interested in or that grabs their attention, obviously, but some things you can't really defend them against. Things that you know would be best for them to not be involved in. I think Jonathan Haidt has work that pertains to this, and specifically to that point that she was talking about before, because the internet is kind of like immortalized. And certainly, you know, when I were a wee lad, I would go home for the weekend, and school and the people that go to school wouldn't even be on the brain. Whereas now, seemingly like that environment doesn't end, it's just there forever. So I don't know, let's say you're being bullied, the bullying continues outside of school. So whereas before maybe you would actually have some kind of respite, the potential for that's just not even there anymore.
In 2008, 2009, most kids were not on social media every day. It was around 50% or less. So it wasn't the thing that everyone had to do. But as you see, the slope is really steep. These are the 2 years, the principal years, when teen social life just moves en masse into social media. You can create anonymous accounts, you can do anything to anyone at any time. You're not even safe on the weekends. You can be bullied all weekend long, even though school's not in session.
So yeah, the social media, that would be the one thing about the terrifying kids thing. And then the second is, in the event that they want to watch anime, why are all anime sites... Why are all the anime sites just got to have fucking 2D titties and everything as ads and whatnot?
There can be communities found within social media, but my personal experience with it, and from a lot of stories that I've heard through Log Off, is that a lot of kids have lost people because of social media. And I think that that constant mindless scrolling allows you to kind of go into this bubble and just hunker down and to not really talk with people.
I know a bunch of kids that like don't know how to communicate outside of like an emoji or like outside of like a picture, or like only have one picture face, and like will repeatedly take the same, like we'll stop everyone in the friend group to pick a wall and just sit there and pose and take 100 photos and stand there and wait and be like, no, take one more.
That's really scary. Oh, to be a Ute.
Would base like entire friend groups to hang out and just take pictures. Like we wouldn't communicate, it would just be pictures just to post on Instagram. And then I would find myself that like we didn't even connect when we were hanging out. It wasn't quality time, because I feel like, oh, I have to get that perfect photo of all of us looking like we're having fun. Even if we're not, I just need to get that so I can post it.
I wonder if there will be some kind of like divergence to come. Maybe as some kind of like subculture, there will be this split of like, there will be the social media people and the non-social media people. I think before 8th grade, a film that Bo Burnham made came out. I remember him talking on a podcast with Pete Holmes, and him talking about how, you know, with young people, there seems to be this perception, because they are ostensibly on social media all the time, it's because they want to be. Whereas for many kids, seemingly, it's not necessarily that they want to be, but feel as though they have to be, otherwise they'll be left out, so to speak. And so in her talking about this phenomenon of people wanting some kind of social media attention and having that be the domineering variable in who they associate with, there is this element of necessity there. The harsh me would be like, oh, they're all losers, social media is bullshit, but I can still have sympathy for that mindset, I think.
With the algorithm and the fact that you never see those things, like I always feel like we're on a whole different side of TikTok than you are, and all it takes is just to look up like deep conversations on the internet. There would have been a Vogue article about we're not really friends, and then you would have looked it up, you know? So in order to change your algorithm, you just have to change the things that you're looking for.
But don't you think
that is quite interesting? I think of it in a way that like there is no mainstream anymore. There are rather like mainstreams plural, you know? Maybe before there was a coherent, this is the mainstream. Singular, this is a shape, whereas now it's kind of like maybe there was a mainstream and then it fractured and now these are the mainstreams. So it is interesting to think about like people are entirely just inhabiting or have the potential to inhabit completely different, completely different internet experiences to you, let's say.
I have been bullied on social media.
I'm not laughing at... I don't know, the sentence just read as funny to me. I'm not laughing at them being bullied, but okay.
So I have had rude comments been made about me, but I've never been like heavily cyberbullied because I don't really have a big following and because of the community that I'm in. I've just read hundreds of stories about kids who like felt like they wanted to kill us because of the rude comments they were getting. And I just remember like there were nights when I would cry and I'd be so upset because I couldn't really do anything about it.
My cyberbullying experience.
Yeah, I swear back in the day, and I feel like maybe this wouldn't apply now, but I swear Tyler, the creator, had a tweet talking about how, like, how do you get bullied? How do you get cyberbullied? Just close your laptop, that kind of thing, which I think is quite funny. But it's also, I think maybe it was said probably about a decade or so ago now. And it's like, it is at a point where it's like, because social media is so ubiquitous, it's like, you can't necessarily just close your laptop because it's like, well, now it's in your pocket. And then it's also a thing of like, even if you yourself don't have it in your pocket, that's not to say that people still can't, I don't know, make fun of you. So even if you absent yourself from social media, that's not to say that all of the potential effects that could come from that are absented, are negated also. What are you gonna do? You know what I mean?
Social media can cause young people to hurt themselves.
That seems like obviously can cause. That's just opening up the question of probability. Can a jar of jam hurt you if it falls off a countertop and hits you on the head? Yes, it can.
I have this one photo that's so vivid in my memory, and like I'm at like an aquarium and I'm leaning against like one of the fish tanks, and my dad and my brother are next to me, and I'm like half my brother's height, my face just sagging, my body, like my clothes don't fit on me, and I'm like, at that time I didn't realize how depressed I was and how much these dance photos were ruining me. That's kind of when I knew like social media is not something I like, I'm not safe here, you know? And so an excuse I can make for not pleasing people online is that I don't use it, and then I'll be okay.
The bad thing about social media is like if you have a bad friend in real life and your mom's like avoid them, don't be next to them and stuff, but on social media you almost can't avoid them. And I feel like that's where like a lot of kids can get hurt because they comment rude things on your things, or they don't share the same opinions, and those friends are horrible, you know?
I don't know how Tumblr is now because I don't go on it, but there are a lot of like self-harm pages and eating disorder pages with like ideas to make yourself lose weight. There's so much of that on Tumblr that I had to get off of Tumblr.
I'm glad Tumblr fucking died. I'ma say it. I'ma come out and say it. I barely use Tumblr, but every time I heard about it, it was horrific. The most horrific social site. Who fucked it? Is it Yahoo? They bought it and fucked it. I'm glad it's over. Fuck them.
Yeah, I'll just play back on what you said about how little kids don't know better. I saw a hack where it was like scoop ice cream, and it said microwave the spoon. Most children wouldn't know. And yeah, in cases like that, it does hurt me to be pro social media. But social media, I think it was always more intended for more discretion.
Like I have this friend named Jessie Page, and she is very, very like.
I can't trust. This is completely separate. And this might annoy some people in my audience. I can't trust anyone with a double barrel first name. I can't. Not anyone. Anyone. You get a first name. It's your first name for a reason. It's first. It's one. You don't get two names in one name, bitch. Maybe I'll settle for a last name. Maybe if you're the child of married parents and both of them wanted to keep the last names or combine them together. That's the only time a double barrel name works for me. Double barrel first name. Greedy.
Social media has educated me more than my school has.
That seems kind of like a silly one. How do you even quantify?
I know all schools, they don't talk about some deep topics that social media brings to light, and it teaches you how to get through it and how to do it without talking to your family if you are uncomfortable, and without talking to the school, because sometimes schools don't have that education in place.
My teacher told everyone that RuPaul's Drag Race was a good example of trans people. Of course, like I got in trouble for like correcting him or whatever, but it was like I could not let him spread fake information like that because those are not trans people, those are drag queens, and that is a totally different topic. I'm very far in my transition for Cxxn, and social media definitely helped me a lot.
Yeah. And then the fact that you even got in trouble for that shows that school is at like, they're lacking.
You know, personal experience is how you learn the most. You know, you go on social media and there's someone talking about this eating disorder, this depression that they went to. It's just someone actually talking to a camera, giving you real advice that a school really could never do.
That is true, but people can kind of exacerbate that too. Like it can become like their thing, their brand, like the drum that they keep beating. So I feel like you probably want to be a bit wary of people like that to an extent. And certainly if it is the reason for their acclaim and notoriety, because it's like, well, in the event that they don't talk about that specific thing anymore, then who's going to watch? You know what I mean? I'm talking about motherfucking the Greta Thunbergs of the world. I'm kidding. Am I though? It's good for people to share their points of view and experiences and stuff like that, but certainly when money gets thrown in the mix and it's like, oh, we'll give you this money if you keep banging this same drum. Money, I'll do it for the next 25 years.
I want to preface it with I'm very lucky. The school that I go to, Altamont, is like a private school in Alabama, and they're very, very
She said, I've got shmoney.
good with kind of integrating these conversations into the academic dialogue. I totally agree with everything y'all have said. I've learned how to rainbow loom, and I've done a bunch of different things on social media, but I've also looked up like election, and there's been misinformation after misinformation, and with so for y'all that answered, how do you kind of outweigh like the chance to learn a bunch of new things with also the chance of seeing a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily true?
I think you just have to look for credible websites. I mean, it's just like when you're doing an essay, you wouldn't believe, just feel like blogs, any of that kind of stuff. It is easy to get a lot of misinformation, but it's also easy to see that this information is fake.
But what about like a young kid that can't really discern that? Because I feel like that's the danger.
My dad actually put the Washington Post and the New York Times on my phone so that I would look at it more, so I would get the notifications. You know, all I had to do was put it on my phone.
There have been times when I've disagreed with what the teacher said.
This idea of like authoritative credibility of like, well, if this source says it, then good, but if this source says it, then bad. That's an awful idea. You're just going to like absent your own levels of discernment to be like, well, they said it, so it must be true. What about when it's not true? Then what? That's not good. That's no good.
If you've taken a political science class, there will be times where the teacher's own political beliefs might make the learning bias. So comparable to social media, it's about the same.
Yeah, but I think it's more dangerous on social media because I agree it is very dangerous in the classroom, especially when you look up to teachers. With the algorithm, they don't have that humanity to actually discern like, oh, this is an article about how masks aren't important. So like, but I'm gonna pump that out.
But I would disagree with you for that exact reason because it's just one human, one way of life, one perspective, one thought, you know. But at least when you go on social media and you put up Trump, it's gonna come up both sides of the story. You know, and it's up to you to.
That's not true. It isn't going to tell you both sides of anything. Social media, I think I'm going to remember all of the academic terms and things like that, but I do specifically remember writing an essay talking about how, you know, we always hear about like the polarization, there's like these camps on social media. It's like, you're not going to hear the other side. The only time you will hear the other side is when it's so inflammatory that your side points at it to say, see, this is why we're on this side, because they're all insane people. Look up attitude inoculation if you're all interested in that. You don't hear both sides, is what I'm saying, unless you specifically follow people of both sides. And even then, who's to say that this person is representative of their side anyway? Why? Because they have a lot of followers? What does that mean? What does that mean?
Society would thrive more without social media.
These are silly questions. I get what they're trying to do, but some of these are kind of silly and inquantifiable. Maybe it's kind of like what would you pick? The world before social media or after social media? But that's not really a cut and dry comparison because like a lot of things have changed over that course because it's like, well, if you pick, I'll pick the social media world. Does that also come with the better technology that came in that era? Or if you pick pre-social media world, are you stuck in the 90s and early 2000s? Or do you get all of the good technology? It's just that social media doesn't exist. Can you tell I have an issue with specificity? Who'd have thought?
I know other people that are like me. I think I would thrive more without social media because I compare myself and I look for those likes and look for those comments on my posts. And I feel like if I didn't have that concern, my mental health and my self-love and self-image would be so much better if I didn't see all this stuff on the internet.
A part of me wants to ask for like
Maybe this is just an issue of different strokes for different folks because some people can be completely not caring with their levels of engagement and just be on their merry little way, whereas other people that would leave them for distraught for a week. So yeah, this isn't that cut and dry, seemingly.
A definition for like thrive, because like, are we talking about like us as like a human race or like people individually? Instagram and things can like put like make you have poor body image and this, that, but also like in the case of like Alex, you know, it helps him, you know, meet other trans people and understand that like he isn't alone, right? And so it's such a general question with so many variables that like you can't just like put one answer down.
Yeah, you need
it's so case by case.
You need to know if it's on the micro macro scale.
And, you know,
shout out Emmy, bro. Emmy's the good takeaway. Emmy the GOAT.
I have a question actually. So in the recent months especially, there have been a lot of protests and stuff that were like, a lot of them were created online, and I think that if we didn't have social media, a lot of them wouldn't have been possible because there wouldn't have been the word spread so fast.
I agree, yes. These protests got really big and it's really important, but the thing that I've kind of been looking at is the people that go and take a picture and go like, oh my God, like I'm so supportive, and like they change their profile picture, they do the Blackout Tuesday, and then
Emmy, stay spitting. She said, "All y'all niggas performative." Emmy stays spitting, bro.
A week later,
I don't even think I said that correct. Emmy stays spitting. Emmy stays spitting so hard she gave me a fucking lisp.
I saw that there was this multifaceted nature about social media, and I at least just wanted to discuss it with teens and to be like, let's figure out how to exist in a healthier way. And even though social media, we can talk about the good and the bad all day, it's just nice to be in one space and have one conversation.
I mean, yeah, technically social media did bring us here, so I guess that's a good thing. But like, hey, we don't have to talk about that.
And that's that, it would appear. Was that interesting? Were my interjections interesting or funny at any point? I would hope so, if this video has seen the light of day. Maybe it hasn't, but if you're seeing it, then evidently it has. If there's anything that tickled your taint, anything you agreed with, disagreed with, drop a comment, obviously, because I'll be snorkeling around. This was fun. I've not really done much of reaction-y stuff, but I think I could throw bits in here every now and then. I quite enjoy content like this because it feels like you're either hanging out with a friend or having a medium to bounce off of to discuss kind of like sociological topics. What did I say in the beginning? Social media good? Social media bad. It's obviously a mix. It does seem that we're getting to some kind of like advent or kind of like watershed moment of like, all right guys, we've had our fun here with the social media and whatnot, but it's getting a bit much now, you know? There's talks of like, oh, digital minimalism, digital detox, things of that nature. It does seem like societally there is some kind of like push back, which I think is good. It's probably for the best because, yeah, you can really lose your brain in this, in these waters, or even forget that it's your brain to begin with. If you enjoyed this kind of thing, drop a like. I might do more. We'll see. We're experimenting. But yeah, I think that's everything for today. So, as always, thanks for hanging out with me. I had fun hanging out with you. Parasocial relationship game 100.
デートに来る